I guess. Sometimes I think making these videos is kind of ridiculous because they're ridiculous, and I feel like I'm almost treading upon whataboutism, which is, Michael Brooks talked about it. That's not what I want to do here. So evidently these hecklers that went to the Kamala Harris rally, and they screamed Jesus, and there's a big deal being made about it. From what I understand, they were heckling her, talking about lies. She said, "This isn't the rally for you. Go to the small rally down the road." They were escorted out. At that point, they were talking about something about Jesus. Fox News twisted it, as they do, and made it about religion. That's what happened. Let's be clear about Trumpers, that they're playing an unfair game, and Kamala Harris is the first black female president dealing with Trump, a narcissist and a person with a base of narcissists and what I call, mass shooter base. She's got to always reclaim her time. She's always got it, because we saw the rally, we saw the debate, how Trump cut her off and stuff. Even though the rules are not supposed to let that happen, he still did it. So that's white supremacy. Even with the rules, the white man can still just cut you off and break the rules whenever he wants. And she was very classy, very classy. She knows she can't win against those people because those people they're not interested in any of the things that she's going to accomplish. That's what I had to learn about Biden, is that, not that Biden is, people talk about, what did he do? It's that they don't care about those things. When you talk about him creating a federal law against lynching, they don't care about that. When you hear about the things he did about COVID in the beginning, when you hear about him walking the picket line, when you hear about him not interfering with the union protests, or the steelworker, the people on the ports, their protests, and I think it ended well. And like a person told me, if we can't strike during a Democrat president, what's the point of the Democrats, and why should anyone vote? And they made a good point. And while we're also worried about Trump winning, I had to really meditate upon that. That's a good point. If we can't do this under a Democrat, then what's the Democrats? Okay, so we're gonna have 4 years of like legitimate, reasonable. Yeah, but what about policy? We're not kids anymore. What about policy? What about, things that affect the bottom line, and a safe workplace, and labor laws, and discrimination? What about that? Kamala Harris has got to always, she's respectful, she's a classy African American, Indian woman, whatever. She's very classy. To me, her whole movement, everybody around her, Tim Walz and all that, they're very classy people, very classy gent. But she's got to always also be assertive. That's what that was. I can't reason with fanatics. You can't either. Because fanatics aren't here for policy. They're not here for better roads and clean water and labor laws, and that's not what they're there for. Hate. Trump gives that to them. They're just I think she walks a fine line. She does it very well, but she walks a fine line of being the bossy black woman, the stereotype, and of being this positive figure. When she did the videos of her like cooking and stuff like that, the positive black woman, the stepkids, all that kind of stuff. She walks a line. She walks it very well, but she must walk it, or these people will walk over her. And that's something I don't think most Americans get that when it comes to Trumpism. Of like, we can't play to these people. Biden knew that. We can't play to these people. They're gone because Trump has had 4 years, more than 8 years now, of lies, and those lies have been reinforced in some ways, and in some ways they've been blown out the water. And one thing I realize now, I'm 34 years old, I'm seeing some of the same conspiracies I saw when I was a kid, the FEMA bunkers and all that kind of stuff, the FEMA camps, they're going to have an American Holocaust. I grew up hearing some of this stuff with George Bush. I'm hearing some of it again. So what these white folks do is they'll take something. It's been debunked. It was debunked when I was 18 years old, 20 years old. So something that's over 15 years ago was debunked. They'll just repeat it again. And they won't even, they're not, the goal is not to like prove. The goal is to like, I saw a thing with Dr. King and one of the Rothschilds, and it was talking about just putting it out there. Well, I don't think black people cared about that kind of stuff back then, when we're trying to have the same rights as white people to own homes and stuff. But they can take that stuff to their people. Kamala Harris, once again, she knows that she can't play to the whole country because half the country is, their brains are poisoned. They got, what RFK had, they got the brain worm. They're poisoned. They're bait mind. They're gone. And I thought that her saying that, even if, because even in the beginning, okay, let's say it's true. Let's say like they were like, we love Jesus, we're Christians, and she had said, you need to go somewhere else. I would still say that's about her reclaiming her time. This is not about some angry white guy that's out of his mind that's going to scream and yell and make a bunch of noise and have a tantrum. It's not about you, white man. This is about my rally. You respect that or you leave. Period. No noise. You respect why we're here, for me to address things, put forward my plans for an administration, or you leave. Like I said, no noise. And, you know, because everybody that votes for Kamala Harris isn't a Christian. And that's fine. You know, I like Kevin Samuels. God bless the dead. But Kevin Samuels, you know, people say he talked about women, he held women accountable, all this kind of stuff. But he died on a floor messing with a prostitute. She left him, and he died alone. Oh, that says something about it. Doesn't say nothing. He lived his life the way he wanted to live it. It says nothing to me. We didn't watch him for Bible study. We watched him for his opinion. My first video of him was talking about how to wash and cologne and how to dress yourself. In talking about another video talking about shoes. Yeah, the video I watched him talking about what would he do if he was a 20-year-old again in today's world. I know there's a lot more to it than that, but just like that, we didn't watch him for Bible study. We watched him for his critiques of relationships in the black community, and we watched him for his understanding of manhood and what it means to be a man and how a man should carry oneself. That's the point. Everybody I like and watch is not going to agree with me on everything, and that's their right. But you're not going to come into a political rally and take it over for 15 minutes because you want to have a tantrum. I almost think that, one thing I've learned and I've noticed over the last couple of years is the Democrats do a really good job dealing with this far-right shit. A really good job. I think they planned for that there's going to be some tantrums, and I think the way she dealt with it was so classy. It wasn't nasty. It was, hey, if you're not voting for me, you can leave. There's another rise. You vote for Trump. Or don't. That was very classy. We don't need you here. We don't. In fact, I'd rather you leave than, create trouble later on, in some other way. Just, let's leave. I think that just like when Dr. Oz ran and didn't even live in Pennsylvania, but we're going to let him run. And just like when Democrats are putting money into far-right Republicans, a lot of them that Trump supported, and they all lost. Mastriano, that bastard, lost. Dr. Oz lost. Others lost. I thought that was crazy, but it worked. Maybe Americans don't like Nazism. Maybe they don't want that. They might like that on the radio, but they don't want that in front of them. And I think that there's some brain cells in the Democrat machine. And when I see things like this, her very cool, respectful way of dealing with hecklers it makes me go back. Somebody's been talking to you. Somebody's plan for, because this is a weird time. You're not dealing with this is not a normal election. And I think when you watch stuff like this, that's where my mind goes. Is that it's not a normal election. And this is not a normal moment. These storms, 90 something degree temps on the coast of Florida last year. This stuff this is a dangerous time. And you can't reason with crazy people. You won't. Now Trump's lying about January the 6th, it's just, I just feel personally like the way she handled that was very classy. It was very decent. It was very respectful. It's a reminder that the Kamala Harris administration is not a fanaticism. It's about politics, and it's the way things should be, and not this fanaticism, Pizzagate, cannibal pedophiles, and Jewish space slaves. It's like, no, we're not here for that. If you're here for that, you need to leave. And I just, that to me was, when you get power, or you get a moment of power, everything you do is supposed to reinforce where you stand. And that was a reinforcement. It was a very classy, very subtle way of responding. That we're not a party. This is not a fanatical movement. We're not here to, we're communists. That's not it. That's not it. We're here for the common man. Trump is not. And it was very decent of there. What do I mean? When Trump talked about how there's so many Trump flags, there's no Biden flags. Yeah, because we're Americans. We're not members of a cult. See how that works? I've got a friend of mine up here that's talking about he could change this, and I'm just like, I'm from the South. I'm from where you have I saw a guy with a flag on his Jeep, as big as a car cover, with gold fringes. Like, that's where I come from. These rednecks up here have nothing on that. I identify as a Prius. Yeah, like these rednecks up here, they're nothing to that. Not even close. To me, those people, they can't change. There is a hatred in there. There's definitely a hatred and a cruelty in everything they do. And that's not something you can, because there's a violence in that implied. There's a rage, and that's not what politics is. Politics isn't about voting to hurt other Americans. I don't believe it is. Thanks for listening.